5 agents you should be playing to climb that solo queue ladder and make the biggest impact in your games. Now, a ton of players fall into the trap of picking agents and filling roles that rely on playing around teammates properly and teammates playing around you properly. But just by swapping to an agent that can be self-reliant and can fill a vital role for your team by themselves, you'll start making a bigger impact in the game and win games that you're good enough to win that you would be falling short on because you just didn't have the right team. But as always, before we get into the meat of the video, we have to start with our question of the day. And today I'm curious, what's your favorite role to play for your team in Valorant? It seems like everyone loves to play Duelist right now, and entry fragging would probably be the most common that people would say, but personally I love playing the Lurker role. I recently swapped to playing a good bit of Cypher, and it feels so nice making a huge impact in the game by cutting off rotations and getting impact frags on the flank without having to worry about the team following up or going in first for you. But I'm sure you guys have a ton of different opinions than me on this, which is exactly why I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments down below what your favorite role is to fill for your team in Valorant. Now, first and foremost, we have to start with Reyna. We all know and have heard that Reyna is the best solo carry agent, but it's really not that simple, and she needs to be played a certain way to fill that solo carry, solo queue queen role. Now, Reyna is a hardcore duelist at heart, and you should be playing to that advantage, but Reyna specializes in 1v1 duels and small skirmishes around the map, whereas other entry fraggers are fine going into a few different people. Reyna's biggest vulnerability is that her flashes can be shot and destroyed before having any effect on the enemy team, but forcing 1v1s makes the one person that you're fighting against have to shoot the eye, making them vulnerable to your peek because they're either shooting at the eye currently or their accuracy hasn't reset yet for your fight. This is why Reyna is best used as a second duelist on the team, and with a Phoenix or a Breach on your team, your teammates don't really need you to flash for them anyway. So abuse those 1v1s by trying to cut off the rotation path. Think about split. Like if your team wants to push B main to go on his B site, go solo into mid. Play passive so you don't get double peeked at the beginning of the round, and work your way up when your team starts to make contact and starts to get into fights. That way you can get solo fights on the rotators, heal back to full whenever you get the kill, and then apply more pressure on Heaven, making that bomb site take so much easier. Whenever Reyna enters into the bomb site, her flash can be shot very quickly by teammates, and she can't use any of her other abilities proactively, so she's a sitting duck when enemies double or triple peek her, which means to get the most use out of your abilities, you have to abuse those 1v1s and make use of your ability to get out of overextended areas with your dismiss and heal back to full after a one fight, making a huge impact on the flow of the round. Just make sure you're not completely refusing to entry for your team on rounds when Now, when you start getting to the higher ranks like Diamond or above, the Reyna pick is going to get a little worse because you'll stop getting free 1v1s and being able to slip through the cracks as easy, or your aim is just not as much better as the opponents to abuse the 1v1s as it would be in lower ranks. This is when Jett is typically going to be a better pick, and not to mention she's the one agent that makes the operator truly overpowered and has the unique ability to play off angles at a moment's notice. Jett is one of those agents with such a high pick rate because she's so versatile and she will maintain that pick rate throughout her lifespan. As an entry fragger, Jett makes this role so much easier because unlike other agents, her job isn't to throw her body out first to absorb bullets while her team follows up. Jett's job is to throw a smoke and instantly dash into that smoke to give your team time to walk in behind you before you peek out and take the risk. This way you can peek out of the smoke and fight with your teammates from two different angles that are very difficult to deal with. As a lurker, Jett can push up faster and more aggressive on her flanks because her dash and updraft give her many options to get out of bad scenarios faster than any other agent. And then with her off angle ability, she can force the enemy to either check all of the niche angles you could possibly be playing in, making them less effective when taking sights, or not check them and feed you free kills by swapping up your placement each round and not letting them know where you're going to be playing. These are things like the boxes on the outside of sewers on A side Haven, or on top of the box on C side Haven, waiting for the enemies to come out of the smoke. And it's also this ability to play off angles that makes her a huge problem with an already powerful gun, the Operator. The biggest problem with the Operator in Valorant is that it takes so long to shoot again, and you're in a terrible position if you get double peeked or you just miss your shot initially. And Jett completely negates this weakness with her dash, which means she's able to play angles much more aggressively that would typically be terrible for any other agent, making Jett the most unpredictable and versatile agent in the entire game. And it's also a safe agent to main for solo queue by being able to be useful in nearly any situation. But next up, I have to talk about Cypher, because he's that agent that allows you to fill a vital role for your team all by himself, and better yet, you don't even need insane aim or mechanics to pull him off. Now with Reyna, if you decide to lurk every round, your team might get mad at you if you're not pulling it off consistently, but Cypher's job is to shut down the flank and be a solid lurker, and most players just don't know how to lurk properly, even in my Immortal and Radiant games, which means picking up Cypher and being able to fill that role properly for your team will put you miles ahead of the competition. Now obviously Cypher is a lockdown defender, and being able to consistently lock down bomb sites as a reliable Cypher will win you a ton of games alone, but we're going to be talking about attacker side because most people just get lost on attacker side and don't know how to be effective. Well, first and foremost, a ton of rounds are lost every game by enemies sneaking up behind the other team because the flank isn't being taken care of. Well, as a Cypher, your number one job is before every round, drop down your tripwires where the enemy can't flank around behind them no matter where they want to approach from. And then you're free to do whatever you want because you're already doing your job. But for now, you need to stay alive so those tripwires stay active. Here the goal is going to be to work your way up into a pressure point of the map. This is like Cubby on mid of Haven, or into sewers on A side of Haven, and hold that area. Just wait for your team to create pressure and get up far enough where you can hear if the enemy starts rotating. When you wait that long and don't show presence, the enemy team will rotate. This allows you to catch out the rotators and pick up free kills, or still be behind that person that's trying to flank and you can come out behind and kill them as well. This makes it where your team can fall off of their initial site take, come back through a safe path to the free site that you took just by waiting for the enemy to rotate or killing that rotator, and also by applying this pressure you force the enemy team to stay on their initial sites longer before rotating, making your team able to take the site they're initially pushing for way easier. And playing Cypher this way is the fast track to having insane map control to help you pick up rounds, and that's the job of the Cypher. Be a nuisance to the enemy team on the flanks, and Cypher can lock it down and have way more freedom than his counterpart could, Killjoy. Next up we have the best duelist in the game, Raze, and the reason she's considered the best is because she has the highest pick rate of all the duelists in pro play, and that's because she has the best area control of any agent in the game, with a ton of mobility and an ultimate that either fully stops a push or guarantees you a kill. Now the first reason that Raze is at the top of the list for best solo queue agents is because she has insane area denial, and on maps like Split and Bind she reigns king because the areas leading into the bomb sites create huge funnels for her grenades to deal tons of damage with and instantly turn rounds. And this is the biggest thing that Raze has that any other agent in the game, especially duelists, don't even come close to having, because being able to stop a push, even if it's just for 5 seconds while your grenade is going off, is a huge benefit for you, allowing your team to rotate and get in position to stop that site take or retake. Now Raze's mobility also gives her the same off-angle opportunities that makes Jett so powerful, but with a little bit more delay. Raze also has insane entry fragging potential by utility dumping her grenade and Roomba and then following it in with a double satchel over the top of the enemies that are trying not to die from that utility. But then she has another thing that makes her so unique, is that her second man ability is just as good as her entry frag, because her utility can flush out the enemy, you can dump that early, take care of the off angles with your Roomba, and your mobility allows you to keep up with your entry frag to trade out for them, or just proceed ahead into the site and create those 2 angles just like Jett does. This makes Raze the only agent in the game that's insane for entry fragging and insane for second man following up that entry frag, allowing you to fill whatever role your team isn't doing very well, all while being an absolute menace on defense. And not to mention, Raze has one of the highest skill caps in the entire game, meaning the more time you put into her, the more effective you're going to be compared to other agents with the same amount of time put into them. And finally, I have to mention Omen. He's the best controller in the game for playing in solo queue because Astra requires too much team play and Brimstone is usually just a little bit too slow to keep up. And I've talked about lurking a good bit in this video, but flanking is a completely different topic that usually happens on defense, and that's what Omen excels at. Omen has the ability to teleport past Cypher tripwires and smoke off Killjoy turret and alarm bot just in case, so it allows Omen to flank around behind the enemy team better than any other agent in the game, which is an extremely powerful strategy for solo queue. Not to mention, Omen's ultimate is a free flank for 1 round because you can teleport into the spawn of the enemy team just before your team commits to the site, and you can then push in and create that 2-angle attack that Jett and Raze try to do, but this one is much more drastic. It's just slightly worse than flanking organically because the enemy team is going to expect it, but it is much faster. When you're flanking on defense, you have to make sure that you're in position to get behind the enemy and fight before they actually complete the take on the bomb site. If you flank like this and you're too late, you have less game impact than naturally because you could rotate to the site safely and retake with your team. But fast flanking and applying pressure on the backside of the opponent's attack forces them to split their attack, making it much easier to defend because they have to worry about you as well, which slows down their push and puts them in terrible positions. And this is a great strategy for when you're comfortable with your aim against your opponents, because you can usually get that 1 kill if they don't see you actually sneak up behind them, but you can then transfer that into multiple other frags as well if you have decent aim to back it up. But another reason Omen is so broken in solo queue is because he has the best flash in the game. Omen's flash not only impairs vision, it impairs sound as well, giving you the ability to flash the enemy and defuse or plant without them actually knowing. And it also covers a gigantic area of effect to allow your team to take bomb sites and retake bomb sites way easier than normal. So it's super versatile, and areas like Akon on Haven flashing through graffiti into the entrance of sewers allows you to completely segment the site out and clear out through hell from CT without actually being in much danger of getting peeked from behind while you're taking the site. So Omen is the only controller in the game that can really operate quick enough to keep up with a full rush, have an insane flash to attack bomb sites with, and he has the best utility to actually flank enemies with, making him easily the best solo queue agent for overall. What do you think the best agent for solo queuing is in Valorant? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton more comprehensive premium guides coming your way that you're going to want to stay up to date with so you can stay ahead of